everybody. How are you today? Yeah, I don't normally get to talk to y'all. I usually stand over on the stage right corner. I'm tuning up my ukulele while Gianna does the welcome. So as I'm not well versed in this, I don't know exactly what to say, and I'm incredibly nervous. Huh? Oh, hey, if y'all want to stand up, I guess you have to. Yeah, you can clap if you want to. You ready, Will? Feeling good like I should. I went and took a walk around the neighborhood. I'm feeling blessed, never stressed. I got the sunshine on my Sunday best. I'm feeling good like I should. I went and took a walk around the neighborhood. I'm feeling blessed, never stressed. I got the sunshine on my Sunday best. Hey, every day can be a better day despite the challenge. All you gotta do is leave it better than you found it. It's gonna get difficult to stand, so hold your balance and just say whatever, cause there's no way around it. Everyone falls down sometimes. Oh, you just gotta know it'll all be fine. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Feeling good like I should. I went and took a walk around the neighborhood. I'm feeling blessed, never stressed. I got the sunshine on my Sunday best. Feeling good like I should. I went and took a walk around the neighborhood. I'm feeling blessed, ooh, never stressed. I got the sunshine on my Sunday best. Hey, some days you wake up and nothing works, you feel surrounded. Gotta give your feet some gravity to keep you grounded. Keep good things inside your ears just like the waves are sounding. And just say whatever, cause there's no way around it. Everyone falls down sometimes. Oh, well, you just gotta know it'll all be fine. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Feeling good like I should. I went and took a walk around the neighborhood. Feeling blessed, never stressed. I got the sunshine on my Sunday best. Feeling good like I should. Went and took a walk around the neighborhood. Feeling blessed, never stressed. I got the sunshine on my Sunday best. Whew. What now, Jared? Do I tell them to sit back down? I don't know. That's not a joke, Jared. Please help. All right, hey. I'm not the only one singing today. We got Hannah over here. She's gonna sing you a song.
Just one.
That we can control the night, or what kind of road
gonna be alright.
Oh, I don't know what's around the bend. Oh, all I know is that my love, it knows no end.
All these pieces, they fall in line, because I'm forever on your side. Take my hand when you can't see the light, because I'm forever on your side. I will carry you every time, because I'm forever on your side.
They'll beat you, but don't let them keep you down. You're always tough enough, and I'll always be around. Oh, I don't know what's around the bend. Oh, all I know is that my love, it knows no end.
All these pieces, they fall in line, because I'm forever on your side. Take my hand when you can't see the light, 'cause I'm forever on your side. I will carry you every time, 'cause I'm forever on your side. Oh, I'm forever on your side.
Oh, I can't promise that a day will never come where the ground beneath us falls out and we got nowhere to run. Oh, but you won't be alone when the water starts to rise up. No, you won't be alone, my darling, when the rains come. No, I don't know
I don't know
what's around the bend.
I don't know
Oh, all I know is that my love, it knows no end. All these pieces, they fall in line, because I'm forever on your side. Take my hand when you can't see the light, 'cause I'm forever on your side. I will carry you every time, 'cause I'm forever on your side. Oh, I'm forever on your side. I'm forever on your side.
All right, for this next song. So, a lot of you have seen me, play the ukulele, play some backup vocals. It occurred to me as I was learning these songs to lead them this week that I did not have 100% of the lyrics to all the songs, and a lot of them, I'm more concerned with playing the little riffs and noodles and stuff in between and letting Guyana handle the lyrics. So I did not realize how impactful this next song was, and this week in particular, how badly I needed it, because I had just a bunch of stress and anxiety stuff. Nothing was even really wrong, but I'm doing okay. This song definitely helped, and I hope it helps you too. told me the other day you hate yourself and anxiety, depressed, a mess to death. You'd open up and open wide with a smile. They told you it's clinical, but I seem so critical. I wish I could convince you that the thoughts you keep believing were a lie. There you go, feeling so broken and alone. You walk with your head held so low. You wanna give it most of the day, and that's okay. I hope you see someday that you are beautiful anyway. Look in the mirror to try to see it clearer, how crazy and amazing you are, and then let it inside. Can't be scientific, you trust me, no I get it, but I won't agree when you tell me you don't deserve a life. There you go, feeling so broken and alone. You walk with your head held so low. You wanna give him most of the days, and that's okay. I hope you see someday that you are beautiful anyway. Raise your hands, take a second and breathe in, singing I'm here for a reason. Raise your hands, take a second to breathe in, singing I'm known in love. Raise your hands, take a second and breathe in, singing I'm here for a reason. Raise your hands, take a second and breathe in, singing hallelujah, I'm known in love. Raise your hands, take a second and breathe in, singing I'm here for a reason. Raise your hands, take a second and breathe in, singing I'm known in love. Raise your hands, take a second and breathe in, singing I'm known in love. And the way you fly, you wear your head held so high, 'cause you never gave up the fight. You never gave in on those days in the pain. That's what makes life so wonderfully awesome and horribly awful, yet somehow it's beautiful anyway.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Yeah, hey, play me some music. Did they mute you? Unmute him, Hannah. Yeah, play me out. So I feel like we just had a really beautiful moment with Noel, like kind of bearing his soul a little bit and playing that song, and then I came out and like stomped on it by going, yeah. So, my bad. How's it going? Yeah? Thumbs up if you had a great week. Thumbs down if you had a bad week. Okay. Thumbs in the middle if it was like a middle week? Yeah. Cool. So clap it up for the band one more time, actually. I think this is the first time we've had looping on stage, probably. Yeah. And the first time that we haven't had some sort of percussive instrument. And it was really cool to like break it down. You don't have to stay. I know I made you play music. You can leave. Hey. It's Will, everybody. He's awesome. They're good, too. Anyway, I just love that we can do this, that it's like an arrow in the quiver, so to speak. And don't worry, next week we're going to have like 7 people up here for Easter. There's going to be saxophone back. Noel's going to be tromboning it up. It's going to be great, so we'll get loud next week. Also, you may have noticed those first 3 songs like weren't particularly like churchy or Jesus-y. And we kind of do that on purpose here. It's called Different Church, so we want to pick out music that you wouldn't hear at most churches. But don't worry, we have like some traditional Jesus music after the message. Hannah's going to prepare your heart for it, and then Rick are going to be like, yes. Announcements. First of all, every Sunday we do something called Sunday Fun Day right after church, where we go hang out somewhere. And today it is I Love Food St. Pete. Is that right? It's on the board. Love Food Central. It's right there. I believe it's vegan. Is that right? Yeah. Rick over here made me try my first vegan food. I mean, I guess I've had vegan food before. If it just does. Anyway, he made me have my first all-vegan meal, and it was pretty good. So if you're not into the vegan thing, go anyway. The food's great, and the hangout is okay. Just kidding. It's great, too. We're going to break down after church and go there and just hang out for a little while. Also, we've got a movie night. We scheduled it for Mother's Day, which it turns out was not a great idea. So we pushed it back to the 15th. If you want to sign up and go on that, I believe it's like a really cool deal, and we're going to see Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, right? I have a 4-year-old, and I just put this on Twitter the other day, or no, it was Facebook. I was like, I used to see movies all the time, and I haven't seen movies in like 5-ish years. But we're going back soon, so maybe that one. Okay, I have one more announcement. I got to take my phone out for this. I want to make sure I get it right. Tiffany over here, that's my wife. She was texting with Hannah and me in a thread, and I'm irresponsible, and I forgot to follow up with her about what this message meant. She says, for Easter next week, I'm also planning on hitting Sam's next week to get some treats for everyone. Muffins, brownies, etc. I'll also make fun-flavored waters and stuff. Isn't she the best? We should probably include that in announcements tomorrow. I meant to follow up and be like, what part of it should be an announcement? And then I texted you, and you didn't text me back. So what part of that is the announcement? We're good! So be here next week. There's going to be fun-flavored water and snacks. I think we've got enough volunteers to pull off our kids thing next week. So that's really cool. Hang out for a couple minutes after the service, and we're going to make sure the kids have a really cool Easter. And I just want to say thank you so much for being here. It means so much. Clap it up for Hannah, everybody.
Hello. There will be all kinds of cool stuff, little stations for the kiddos. And hopefully, I mean, I know we have like kids of all ages, but if you're over like 18, no Easter eggs for you, unless you buy your own. I know it's so sad, I know. But save them for the little babies. And by little babies, I mean children, okay? Also, y'all need to pray for me today because I have spilled my tea, literal tea. I've spilled the tea twice. And Nova's not feeling very well. That's my baby. So I'm tired. And today, actually, is great. So it's technically Palm Sunday. We're not talking about anything related to that whatsoever. Well, it's tangentially related. Do you want to know the title of today's message? Why was Jesus murdered? Solid question, Aaron says. Okay, so there's so many ways I could go with this, like so many metaphors we could use, but the problem with metaphors is they are in fact just metaphors and don't really translate to how shocking the story is that we are going to read in the Bible. But I want you to have like just some idea of the feeling. So just imagine we're just on a Sunday. We're at church. We're doing normal Sunday stuff. The day Sunday before Easter. Easter's next week. Big party happening. It's like the Super Bowl of Jesus sports, as I have heard evangelical pastors say, even though I hate that line. And like, okay, so we're all in church doing normal stuff. And then some person comes in here and starts destroying everything. Like, smashes the mic stands, breaks the guitars, throws chairs around. Like, what would we be doing right now? I would be in the corner having a panic attack. Although, just for your peace of mind, that would never happen because my husband would stop them. And I think a couple of y'all would too. Like, one chair would be thrown, and we would be like, no, sir. I assume it's a sir, but that's be sexist of me. So, but like, can you imagine if someone just came in here and started wrecking everything and yelling? We would all be freaking out. So just like, keep that feeling in your heart as I read the story. So it's from John chapter 2, verses 13 through 22. It says this: it was nearly time for the Jewish Passover celebration. So Jesus went to Jerusalem, and in the temple area, he saw merchants selling cattle and sheep and doves for sacrifices, and he saw dealers at tables exchanging foreign money. And Jesus made a whip from some ropes and chased them all out of the temple. He drove out the sheep and the cattle. He scattered the money changers' coins over the floor and turned over their tables. And then going over to the people who sold doves, he said, "Get these things out of here. Stop turning my Father's house into a marketplace." Then his disciples remembered this prophecy from the scriptures: passion for God's house will consume me. But the Jewish leaders demanded, "What are you doing? If God gave you authority to do this, then show us by some miraculous sign." And Jesus says, "All right, destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it up again." And they exclaimed, "What? It has taken 46 years to build this temple, and you can rebuild it in 3 days?" But when Jesus said this temple, he meant his own body. And after he was raised from the dead, the disciples remembered he had said this, and they believed the scriptures and what Jesus had said. This is a crazy story. Like, if you're familiar with the story, you might be like, I mean, it's just a story, it's just what Jesus said. No, this is insane, okay? Jesus, one guy, made a whip out of some rope that was lying around and chased all of the sheep, the cattle, the birds, the people who were selling them, and the money changers out of the temple. One person with a rope whip. Savage. How does that even happen, okay? And, like, I think how we picture the temple matters, okay? The temple is like the beating heart of Judaism. It's not like some church on a corner that you can go to whenever you want. The temple is like the center of worship and music and politics and religion, and it was the place of national mourning and national celebration. It was the center of everything. But above all else, it was where Yahweh, Israel's God, promised to live. So God lives there in the temple. And then a prophet from Galilee came in with a whip and turns everything upside down. I feel like we could just forget how shocking this must have been. Jesus just running around like a crazy person, causing such chaos. There's animals everywhere. He's running around yelling with a whip. It doesn't say that he's yelling, but like, can you run around with a whip chasing people not yelling? Like, I don't think I would be able to do that. He's causing all this chaos. There's such a commotion. There's sheep flying everywhere. There's coins on the ground. Imagine people trying to grab them, I assume. And then the religious leaders come out of the temple. They come out and they're like, "Excuse you. What is happening? How dare you? Who do you think you are that you can just come in here?" And Jesus' reply is, "Stop turning my Father's house into a den of thieves." Okay, and then they're like, "Well, if God gave you the authority to do this, then show us some miraculous sign. Prove it," in other words. But like, what kind of sign were they looking for? Did they want like an earthquake? Like a heavenly host of angels coming down? Like, Did they want to be struck by lightning? Like, what would have convinced them? We don't know. Would anything have convinced them? No matter what Jesus did, would it have been enough? Or would they have been like, oh, he's doing that because of the devil? Because they did use that line before. And Jesus answers their question like very cryptically. He's like, destroy this temple and I'll raise it up in 3 days. And now, there's ancient traditions about this. Like, the temple had been destroyed and rebuilt. Some believed it would happen again. And Herod the Great had begun this revitalization program, very political, you know. He wanted the Jews to be happy with him, so he's like, we'll rebuild the temple and they'll be happy. So he started this 46 years ago, and it was like not even completed. It had most of a temple. And the religious leaders are like, excuse me, it has taken 46 years to build this house for God, and you think you're going to build it up in 3 days? What kind of an idiot are you? But of course, Jesus was speaking about his own death and resurrection. Jesus is the true temple. The Word made flesh, as we talked about last week when we talked about Lazarus. The place where heaven and earth meet. Jesus takes all these traditions and applies them to himself. And there's no doubt that John, the writer, there's no doubt what he thinks this means. Because first of all, it's Passover time. And Jesus goes to Jerusalem during Passover, which was a time when freedom from slavery, freedom from oppression, was being celebrated. And John wants us to understand that what Jesus is doing in the temple is the new meaning of Passover. Basically, all these realities that Passover has been having for all this time are pointing to Jesus. But I have a question. What the heck was wrong with the temple in the first place? That Jesus felt the need to just go in and do all kinds of property damage. Clearly Jesus is like, the whole system is corrupt. This needs to stop. I'm going to burn this place down. If you've watched Office Space. I'm going to burn this place down. There's this trade, marketplace atmosphere. And Jesus seems to be saying, this is not what this is for, okay? But let's think about this logically and practically for a second. It makes sense that the animal merchants and the money changers are there in the temple. We can get very, Christian and offended. How dare they sell animals in God's house? We're like, yeah, Jesus knew something was right. But it makes sense. It's logical, right? Because people were coming from all over the country and beyond during Passover to offer sacrifices. And there were specific requirements for how and when and what you could sacrifice. So if you were traveling a long distance to get to Jerusalem, does it not make more sense to buy a sheep when you get there than to drag one with you for 300 miles? Right? And if you had a different kind of currency, because there were all kinds of currencies floating around in the ancient world, it makes sense to have someone there who can change your currency into the local currency so that you can then buy some flour or some oil or whatever it is you were going to sacrifice before God. There's no problem here, right? This all seems logical, reasonable, like it's actually helping people. This is the problem. First of all, the moneylenders were charging an exorbitant markup. They were taking advantage of people who had come to participate in faith. This has no modern parallels, right? We've never heard of people taking advantage of other people who have come to just participate in faith. We've never heard of religious leaders promising miracles or healings or 1,000 blessings if you just donate to their cause, or they'll send you a scrap of fabric in the mail that they've supposedly prayed over. We've never heard of such things in our day, right? The Bible has nothing to say to us in our modern context, is what I'm saying. So the moneylenders were using people far beyond the reasonable service fee that it might take for them to make a living. And second, the animal sellers were also using people because all the different types of animals were there. If you ever read the Bible, you're like, the sheep and the cows and the goats and the birds and the flour and the fine flour and the oil and the why, all of this stuff. Actually, the sacrificial system is built to be inclusive for everyone. And if you had a lot of resources, you presented a cow. If you had a medium amount of resources, you presented a sheep or a goat. And if you had no resources, you're poor, you presented a bird. The hierarchy is still the same today, honestly. Like steak is super expensive, chicken costs almost nothing. Right? So the whole sacrificial system was actually built on making everyone have an equal playing field. You couldn't come in and be like, I have no money, therefore God doesn't want me here. Also, this is a side note. Y'all know I love my side notes. Have you ever wondered why in the Old Testament it's like, here's the specific animals that you may sacrifice and how you do it? It must be a male animal without blemish. Why? Is it because males were so important? Is this another vestige of the patriarchy? Actually, no. Do you want to know why? It is because they were not as valuable as female animals. The males were expendable, in other words. Because, let's think about this logically, it takes one male cow to produce hundreds of baby cows. It takes one female cow to produce one baby cow. So what is more important for people's livelihood and sustenance throughout the year? The females. So actually, this is another sign, right? Another instance where the sacrificial system is built to protect the poor people. They're like, if you have a sheep and it gives birth to a bunch of other sheep, and bring the male one. Don't bring the one that may sustain you for years to come. I want to protect you. This is what God's saying. And these people, okay, these vendors, they're charging out the butt for animals. They're just charging so much money. And it's wrong whether you take advantage of rich people or poor people, right? We shouldn't be taking advantage of anyone. But it's especially wrong when you take advantage of a person who does not have any other resources. So let's say I traveled the one trip I make the whole year. I've come 30 miles, which is a massive trip if you're walking. I mean, honestly, like 1 mile is a massive trip for me if I'm walking. So like 30 miles these people have traveled. They didn't want to bring a pigeon with them or whatever, a dove. A dove is a pigeon, just so you know. They're not cooler. They don't want to bring it the whole way because that's just a lot, right? They're going to buy one when they get there. And then they get there and they find out, oh, it's 3 times the cost of what it should be. And I don't have enough money. And that means I can't participate. I can't make my sacrifice. This isn't inclusive. This isn't available for everyone. And God's now going to be mad at me because I can't do the thing. If I had known, then I would have brought something, but I didn't know. I thought it. You see why Jesus would be mad? Okay, put a pin in this. Or as I say to small children, hold that thought. We're going to jump for a second to John chapter 11, right where we left off last week when Jesus raises Lazarus from the dead. It says this. Then the leading priests and Pharisees called the high council together. What are we going to do? They asked each other. This man certainly performs many miraculous signs, and if we allow him to go on like this, soon everyone will believe in him. The Roman army will then come and destroy both our temple and our nation. Caiaphas, who was high priest at the time, said, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't realize it's better for you that one man should die for the people and for the whole nation to be destroyed. He did not say this on his own. As high priest at that time, he was led to prophesy that Jesus would die for the entire nation, and not only for the nation, but to bring together and unite all the children of God scattered throughout the world. Remember, this message is called Why Was Jesus Murdered? We're getting to it. There's a meeting called by the chief priests and the Pharisees. This is the first and only time in all 4 Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, where the word Romans is mentioned. The Roman army. I think this explains a great deal. So there's this collective anxiety that happens, right? We have collective anxiety. Like, for example, we've had collective COVID anxiety for 2 straight years. The Jews also had collective anxiety about the Romans. The Romans had taken over much of the Middle East about a century before Jesus comes along. There were entire legions of soldiers. A legion is like 4,000 to 6,000 soldiers. Multiple legions stationed just a few miles north in Syria. And the governor could just call on them at any moment and be like, hey, I have a problem. We're going to call out the police. and the National Guard and the army. And that had happened in living memory, meaning there were people alive who remembered the last time the governor called out the legions, and thousands of Jews had been killed or crucified, and the rebellion was squashed. So, though many Jewish leaders greatly wanted to be free, they much preferred the semi-freedom that Rome allowed them to have, to the devastation that would follow if a major revolution broke out. And they clearly thought that's what was going to happen if Jesus went any further. Raising the dead, raising Lazarus back to life a couple of miles from Jerusalem, no less, where all the people could run back and tell their friends, during Passover time, the time when the most people would have been in the city, that was too much. Obviously, Jesus had to be gathering support for some kind of march on Jerusalem. And when that happened, the Romans would call out the troops, and it would be the end of everything. Now, ironic, right? Because if you're reading John, you know that Jesus had no intentions whatsoever of doing a march on Jerusalem or anything of the sort. He was not mounting a political revolution. The authorities are jumpy, very nervous. And of course, again, in our Christian, we just read the story. We're like, how dare they not understand what Jesus was doing? How dare they be afraid? Well, okay, we can scoff at them, but their fears are justified because less than 40 years later, a large-scale revolution does break out. And guess what happens? The Romans come, and they squash it, and they burn the temple down, and they destroy most of Jerusalem. And the temple has not been rebuilt to this day. In fact, it's currently a holy site for Islam. So this is a reasonable, logical fear they have, actually, of the Romans coming to crush them, except that Jesus wasn't starting a revolution. And John highlights Jesus' purpose by pointing out Caiaphas' response, his proposal. One man should die for the people. It's kind of a prophecy, but it's also like a statement of cynical politics from top to bottom, right? You guys don't realize it's better if he takes the blame for this and dies than we all die. And Jesus would indeed die. Executed in a manner reserved for rebels and traitors, but his death would not just be for the nation, as Caiaphas says, but for all God's children all around the world, no matter where they find themselves. The disciples warned Jesus, last week we talked about this, to go back to Jerusalem, they're going to kill you. And here we have the reason why. They are afraid that Jesus is going to take away the tiny sense of safety and security that they have scraped together for themselves. Unless we think we're better, when we are afraid, we are the most defensive. We are the most likely to lash out. And one more thing. For centuries, the way to relate to God had been very clearly prescribed. You make these sacrifices in the temple. You present this offering to the priest, who will burn it on the altar. You do this, and then this, and then this. That's how it's done. God will be happy with you. And so every day, people brought their sacrifices, and every day the priest accepted them and burned them on the altar, and the smoke from the altar went up to the heavens. Kind of like it never would have gone out, like the Olympic flame. Just always burning, right? You could probably see it from anywhere in Jerusalem. The smoke trail. Another reminder daily to think about faith and interaction with God, that that's where God is. I want us to think very carefully here. Jesus goes into the temple and makes a mess of everything. The animals run away. The money changers and vendors, he chases them out with a whip. Which means what? No one can buy anything to sacrifice. No one can get their currency changed. And if no one can purchase their sacrifice, then there isn't anything to sacrifice. Which means, and this is the crux of the whole matter, the smoke coming up from the altar stopped. stopped. After how many years of it constantly burning? It stopped altogether. During Passover, all temple proceedings ground to a halt. Of course, that in itself is a sign, right, of what's going to come in 40 years when the temple is no more. Y'all can come back up here. I'm almost done. I'm not just saying that like the good Pentecostal I am, and I have like 17 more times to say that before I let you go. I really am almost done. Why was Jesus murdered? And I think we should be clear, because we should call it what it really is, right? The murder of an innocent person. Because we get very churchy and we're like, Jesus died for our sins. Jesus sacrificed himself. Okay, but actually, murder is what happened because he was innocent and did not have to die, right? It didn't have to happen that way because there were other options, but in another sense, it did have to happen that way because this is textbook human behavior when we or our safety are threatened. There wasn't another option because the Pharisees and the Romans couldn't think of one, just like we can't think of one when we're afraid. They're like, we have to shut this down. Whatever it is, we cannot let it play out. It might be dangerous. We never do that. We're never like, what is this? I don't know. Shut it down. It might be dangerous. Might make me feel sad. They had very justified fears. They couldn't let it play out. Of course, they killed him. But this is where I want to leave you, with the idea that actually there is another option. And Jesus took it. Because the Pharisees wanted to violently kill him, and Jesus let them. He could have called down the hosts of heaven to fight a war for him. Or, even more reasonable, just incited his followers, of whom by now there were thousands. Just a word from Jesus, and they would have riot. They would have saved him. If no one fights back, it's easy to kill one person. You can't kill crowds and crowds and crowds. It's not possible. Jesus could have been like, hey, help me out here. He could have just, like smote them with lightning from heaven, like Zeus or something. But he didn't. Instead, he let it play out. He didn't respond to violence with more violence. He didn't respond to fear with more fear. Instead, he went quietly and willingly into his own death. And in doing so, exposed all the fear and all the violence and all the evil for what it truly was. The worst we have to offer. Side note for Revelation. Y'all know I love Revelation. Revelation plays out kind of like a horror movie. And there's all this stuff that keeps happening, and humans just keep doing worse and worse and worse things. And it just escalates and escalates and escalates. And the question is, why can't God just stop it? Because it could happen. Right? That would be better for us if God was just like, no, stop it. Stop it. I feel like sometimes I need God to do that. Stop it to me. Why not? Because it has to come out. Have you guys ever seen Dr. Pimple Popper? Sorry for the image that might be in your head. But basically, if you don't know what this is, don't look it up. You'll be horrified. You think of a pimple, but times 100. And you cannot slap a Band-Aid on it. Why? Because the infection is still inside. And it will eventually kill you. It has to come out. You have to clean it out before you can start the healing process. And Jesus could have fought back, but guess what? That would have just trapped more infection. It would have trapped more violence and more fear in the same place where it already was. But instead, it came out. And in Revelation, same thing. All of humanity does the worst it possibly can do, and it all comes out, and then God says, now we can heal. There's a third way. there's another option. The Pharisees couldn't see it. The Romans couldn't see it. And how many times in our lives do we not see it? The Pharisees, they didn't take it, but Jesus did. He said there's another way. And that way is worth fighting for, trying for. That way is why we're here. If that way doesn't exist, then what are we doing? Go home. I think, I say this, we say this in small group all the time. It can't all be bad. Because if it's all bad, then we wouldn't be here. I know so many of us have had experiences in faith communities that have been devastating to us or to someone we love dearly. And it's really easy to write off the whole thing and respond in the way that maybe we have been responded to. Why? Because it makes sense. But it can't all be bad. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. Trying's pretty good. I think that's actually all Jesus wants of us, is to try, to not give up hope, even when we look at the world and we say, it looks like we ought to give up hope. It looks like this is useless and does nothing. It looks like no matter how much good we put into the world, the bad overshadows it. It looks like no matter how much good I do myself, I still feel like a bad person. But guess what? That's not true. There's a third way. And if you feel like crap, please hear me. You are fundamentally good. You are good inside. This feels hard because it is hard, not because you're doing something wrong. And Jesus says, if you're tired, come to me and put the heavy things you're carrying down for a second. Just put them down. You don't have to carry them. If you want to, I'll let you. But you don't have to. And we're always like the Pharisees. What if it's terrible? Here's this PowerPoint presentation of 27 things that could go wrong in this thing if I go down this path. But hear me, friends. What if it's great? What if it's great? And Jesus' disciples, as we're going to talk about next week, they look and they were like, no, this is terrible. There's no hope left here. How dare you, Jesus, not let me start a revolution for you? Like, how dare you? Just go walk willingly. And Jesus is like, hey, what if it's great? And they're like, it is not. And then it was. What if it's great? We have 2 more songs. So just invite you to stand and sing with us. Sing with Noel and Hannah. And I'll come back and give you a benediction.
How many miles must I take to break through? And how many hours must we wait through to hear the truth? How many moments did I trade in for a fake kiss? How many chances did I forfeit? Afraid to miss. I feel your thunder pouring like rain down on the mountains of all my mistakes, rolling like rivers, running with grace into the ocean of your embrace. Your hand on my side, leading the way 10,000 horses couldn't pull me away. I hear the music heaven has made. Oh, when we're standing face to face. How many nights we've regret do, I swear do. How many lights in the rear view do I compare to? I feel your thunder pouring like rain down on the mountains of all my mistakes, rolling like rivers, running with grace into the ocean of your embrace. In the side leading the rain, 10,000 horses couldn't pull me away. I hear the music heaven has made. Oh, when we're standing face to face, 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 face to face. And on my side, leading the way, 10,000 horses couldn't pull me away. I hear the music heaven has made. Oh, when we're standing face to face. Face to face, face to face, face to face, face to face, face to face. Whew. We got one more for you. This is one of my favorites, so I'm glad I get to sing this one. All this pain, I wonder if I'll ever find my way. I wonder if my life could really change at all. All this earth, could all that is lost ever be found? Could a garden come up from this ground at all? You make beautiful things. You make beautiful things out of the dust. You make beautiful things. You make beautiful things out of us. All around, hope is springing up from this old ground. Out of chaos, life is being found in you. You make out of the dust. You make beautiful things. You make beautiful things out of dust. You make beautiful things. You make beautiful things out of dust. You make beautiful things. You make beautiful things out of dust. You make me new. You are making me new. You make me new. You are making me new. You make beautiful things. You make beautiful things out of the dust. You make beautiful things. You make beautiful things out of the dust. You make beautiful things. You make beautiful things out of dust.
You be seated. That was so good, wasn't it? Well, guess what? You didn't even notice that wasn't how it was supposed to be. Apparently, Will's guitar wasn't working, so we just played the whole thing on bass. It was that good. And we were all like, yes, Lord. You're killing it, is what I'm saying. Thanks. I'll just come here for compliments. Thank you. Thank you. Couple of things. Definitely come to Love Food Central. If I haven't met you, come say hi to me because I'd love to meet you. Next week is Easter, which I'm not going to hype beyond normal levels. There's too much hype around Easter. Let's just be honest, right? But also, it's great. So come because it's going to be great. I mean, I'll be here. Yes. Thank you for the compliments. I feel like there was something else, but probably, I don't know. If you're new around here, visit the Stuff Center on your way out. There's free stickers, so take one. And there's other stuff there. And you can, if what we're doing is meaningful to you, you can donate online, or we have a box. If you have the ability to support us, then we'll keep doing this forever, hopefully. I won't be here forever. Spoiler alert, we're all gonna die. Sorry, was that too dark? We were talking about murder. Okay, so let's pray, and then we'll go enjoy the most beautiful day outside. This is the way, we say, as we hurt each other and spread lies and fear and misinformation. This is the way, we say, as we lash out and protect only ourselves and seek to destroy anything different than us. This is the way, we say, our battle cry when we are wounded, afraid, hopeless. People of Zion, weep no more. How gracious God will be when you cry for help. As soon as God hears, you will be answered. For Christ has come like an earthquake to crack the pillars of loss and grief and fear in our hearts, to show us a new way that refuses to participate in the destruction of our world, of each other, of us. may we move forward together, hopeful. And whether we turn to the right or to the left, may our ears hear the gentle voice of God's Spirit saying, "This is the way. Walk in it." Amen. Thanks for being here, y'all. Happy Sunday.